Hello, Maggie Williams here again with our next online lecture on user research. Today's topic is surveys and questionnaires, and then specifically questionnaires with closed questions. And it's the first time since the start of our course of user research that we are actually teaching this. We didn't include this topic before for two quite important reasons. And that is mostly that if you do surveys in terms of questionnaires, you can ask a few closed questions, but it's not mostly the type of information or insight that you are looking for in terms of the design process. It can be helpful towards the end of the design process if you want to check if your design is going in the right direction. Then you can show it to people and with closed questions get some feedback. But mostly the type of insights we want in design are not the type of insights that you can get from closed questions, questionnaires. And another thing is that if you want to do questionnaires, you should actually train yourself in the statistics, things like standard deviation, but also what was it again, a chi-square. These are things we're not going to train you on. We don't have the time for that, and it's also not really relevant for us as a course. So because we don't do these things, we did not include surveys because we don't recommend to use them in the design process. Well, what we see in practice is that I guess at least half of our IDE students at some point in their program use surveys, questionnaires, online, sometimes telephone or in person, to support, but also simply because their client asks them to, whether it's in their international insight research or others. And when the experience is in giving feedback on those surveys, people would find it hard to take in that feedback because they don't have any background on them. So that's why we've included from now, at least if you do them anyway, you better get some basics. So first I'll try to look into things that can go wrong with surveys and questionnaires. So very simple question such as, which do you prefer, Coke or Pepsi? Based on just showing the two logos might get you a different answer than when you ask the same question and you show the most recent advertisements. They might have a different impact, or you might look at the advertising not so much as the brand or not so much as the product. Or if you say something about diversity policies within the company, then you would probably get a different answer again. And then if you look at the most recent product innovations of those companies, and you say, which do you prefer, Coke or Pepsi? Your answer might be based on the brand, on the type of message they're trying to give, or it might be based on the actual taste, if you have tasted both new products. So if you do the same research with exactly the same question, depending on what else, the frame that you give the people, the pictures that you give them, the introduction, and also, of course, Coca-Cola. Are you talking about the brand, the product, the advertisement? All these things can lead to very different answers to exactly the same question. So that is why it is really important to pay lots of attention to getting your question right. Because survey results can lead to controversy. There was Motive Action, which is a very renowned research agency in the Netherlands. In November 2014, many newspapers had headlines saying that 72% of Dutch youth with a Turkish background support the progress of ISIS in Syria. And this research result led to very strong political reactions. Ministers saying that we have to take action, and if people have this opinion, that really something needs to change. And then again, there were very strong reactions from the Turkish community, condemning the research method, the research claim, etc. So there can really these type of survey results had a really big follow up, and people reacted to it in different ways. And it's very easy for a newspaper to make up such a headline that there were also a majority of the same youth were pro-democracy and against the caliphate were results from the same survey that were much less mentioned in the press. And of course, if you look at this, one of the things that especially was said about the Turkish in the Turkish community response is that many Dutch youth with a Turkish background support standing up against Assad in Syria, and that is why they agreed with this statement, and that they're not so much in support of then still ISIS. So there are many different aspects, and if you have a survey even from a very renowned research company, these type of research results can lead to questions, controversy, and definitely strong results are easily picked up by the press and politics, and other results less. I think what happens a lot in terms for IDE students, especially if you want to convince other people, is that they take a survey to try and gauge market expectations. And then you can make your pitch, present your product, and say 17 out of women in our research said that they would consider buying the product. And then, of course, you can make a strong impression, but then what does consider mean? Does it mean that they will think about it, or that they will actually do it? So I see a lot of this type of research is very often misused, I wouldn't say abused, but to create false expectations. This is not really the type of thing I would recommend doing this type of market research. But if you do surveys, do them right. So I'm going to talk about two aspects of doing them right: technical aspects and content aspects. In the book, tables 3.1 and 2.3, helpful information on choosing what type of survey is good, whether you should do it on the internet or via email, whatever. Just look at that. One thing, if you decide to do it and then saying people are not doing it, there's no excuse. You have to make the right choices so that you get your answers. Talking about the technical aspects, think about the type of questions you are going to ask. Is it the type of question that allows one answer only, or that allows more answers? If you're going to give options, how many options are you going to give? There's a difference between 3 options and 10 options. Also, give people the freedom to fill in the survey as they want to. Do not make the mistake of making the survey as you want it, because that will lead people to be frustrated, stop, and also not to give you good information. So often include a other please specify option, or also include an option to give no opinion or prefer not to answer, so people will not stop your survey simply because they cannot give the answer that they want to or think is correct. And if you don't know much about it, try to avoid complex type of questions such as ranking. Give your position 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't do it. Another part of the technical aspect of giving questions is that scaling is also framing. If you ask a question and you give 5 options, then people will see the middle option as the average. And as in this question, they will see, okay, am I average? Well, then, I'm less than average, and they will hesitate to go much above or much below. So if you know somewhere a general average, then actually put that in the middle, or put what people expect to be average in the middle, and have an equal distance, low, lower or higher. Because otherwise you will again get distorted answers, because people have a tendency to go towards the middle. And if that middle is not where they expect it to, then they might be confused. So then on the technical side, there's layout and clarity. So there's different ways of making your scales. The most general scale is from strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. This is one of the most used scales, which works very well with people agreeing with a certain statement. This is mostly people go from left to right, from negative or low to positive or high. If you switch that around, you can already confuse people, so don't do it. Then there's a difference. You can take 5 points there, but you can also take 7 points to take to go between strongly and just to go to extremely, moderately, slightly, and then in the middle. That is another option, and I would in general recommend the 5-point scale because it gives you most of the things that you want. Then you can work with smileys instead of words, if that helps. But also another thing that's on the example, make sure that the distances between the several items are the same. So if the one extreme is almost always and the other extreme is never, then that's not exactly the same. So then one should then be always and the other one should be never, or it should be almost always, almost never. Look for the right balance. Okay, so these kind of scales are very often on a horizontal level, and then if you have not more multiple type of options, you generally do them just A, B, C, D type. About the content, very often it is important to give an introduction, to explain why you are doing the research or to give some information. Never assume that the people that you are talking to have the same level of information as you do. But then again, if you give that type of background information, it's really important to give neutral information. As in this example, if you just say we are investigating such and such, the attitudes, then give a statement, okay, what is your opinion on this? Then you will get a different response when you give a specific introduction saying there was an increase in the influx of asylum seekers. We want to know if this worries people. Then you give the people an introduction that is already a frame, and they will give different answers than when you give them a neutral frame to think about the question. Be unambiguous in your questions. Avoid vague terms. Try to be as specific as possible. If you say I would describe my relationship as dynamic, some people will probably think that it means that it's very active, while other people might understand it as that you have a lot of fights. So be specific. Avoid negatives. I have never experienced a member of staff being unhelpful. Actually, just say members of staff are generally very helpful. Negatives tend to confuse people, and especially double ones. And then, really important is avoid compound or, as I say, double-barreled questions. So if you say, are you in favor of less expensive and safer cars? Then you're asking two questions at the same time. Ask the question, are you in favor of less expensive cars? And ask separately the question, are you in favor of safer cars? Another thing is, do you think that there's a good market for the product and that it will sell well? Maybe I think there's a good market for the product, but that in the current packaging or branding it won't sell well. So I cannot say yes or no to this statement. Another example of a question that has a lot wrong: when making lunch or dinner for your family, do you consider less unhealthy options? Basically has all the mistakes in it. Okay. Running out of time. Content-wise, be neutral. Don't lead. Don't things like you think that. Be careful with the framing. Don't start with most parents want the best for their children, because then parents are working expectations. Don't project your assumptions. So overall, if we can't stop you from doing surveys, at least do some of it right. Garbage in is garbage out, and when it's in the computer doesn't simply mean that it's a right answer. Well, just within 15 minutes. Thank you all for listening, and I hope to have a really interesting class on Monday.